Marty, thank you so much for joining me today on Extraordinary Woman. Of course, I've
Hi.
I've been following you for a little while now since you've actually started at Fox, and you just have an amazing story. You have an amazing background, and it was only right that I would have you on here to get to know you a little bit more, share your story with other women out there. So, first things first, how did you get your start in the broadcasting and journalism industry?
Well, I started when I was in high school, really. So my father, he was a newspaper reporter as well in the Philippines, and I needed an elective for college. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll try the high school campus newspaper, see if I like it, since my dad was a newspaper reporter. And the minute I printed out my first article, everything clicked. And I was like, oh my goodness, I know what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I started just cranking out article after article in the school paper. And I became like their go-to breaking news reporter at school. And then I worked my way up to become managing editor of the paper in a year. So from then on, I just went into college studying broadcast journalism, so focusing more on the TV side, and I just took it from there, just getting internships in school from Fox News Channel to Fox Sports Net to ABC7. I had a different internship every semester of college, so I wanted to hit all of the news stations and see how I like it. And then I also went to intern at NBC Nightly News. And then after that, I took on fellowships. I applied for fellowships, and I earned some fellowships there. And then I got my first job in the industry at KCOY KKFX, which is the CBS and Fox affiliate in Santa Maria, California. So it was about 3 hours away from home, but I got to stay in California, which I was really grateful for.
Yeah, definitely. So you are a three-time Emmy-winning reporter, which is so cool, completely amazing. So talk to me a little bit more about what that moment felt like when you first won your Emmy, and kind of take me through that journey. Like, what kind of reports did you have to do? I would assume you have to do a lot of crazy reports, from like live shots to news packages to get to that point.
Yes, definitely. Unfortunately, the sad part is all the Emmys that I've earned were for very tragic stories. So I earned an Emmy for the lilac fire that burned across San Diego County in Boston. It burned all the horses, that fire that I covered. I earned an Emmy for the Las Vegas mass shooting.
Yeah.
That was an intense story to cover. And then our morning show team that I was with formerly, we also earned an Emmy for the Woolsey fire. So it's always very intense events that we cover.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Sometimes there's some lighter pieces that we can cover, but I think my bread and butter really is breaking news. I love covering breaking news. I love being on the scene and getting accurate and meaningful stories out there when the seconds matter most, when people are searching for answers, and that's the value that you can provide to them in that moment. And you have to be right, and you have to do justice to their story. And I'm glad that I was able to do that in all of those incidences, which were tragic incidences. It's my way of kind of hopefully helping the world, during that time.
Yeah. And you and I both know that definitely working in this industry, the stories that we have to, tell, that we have to share. Like, as you said before, like sometimes, that there can be lighter ones, but then, there are times where they're just really hard stories to report. So how do you stay professional when doing the story, and then at the same time, like, still managing your emotions? Like I would assume, like for me, sometimes I know when I come home, if it's a terrible day of just bad news, I have my moments. So how do you handle your stress or how do you cope with having to be out there and report stories like the mass shooting in Las Vegas?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, you have to have a certain level of professionalism and calm, and you have to remain collected because you have to be really on point when you're out there on the scene and covering a story of such major importance. But you're human too as a journalist, and I don't think you should ever deny your humanity, you know? I think if you deny your humanity, that just makes your journalism suffer. So when I was covering the Las Vegas mass shooting, I will tell you it was some of the most emotionally and physically draining moments of my life. And I met people who just had incredible stories of heroism and tragedy. I interviewed a woman who was shot in the stomach.
Wow.
I interviewed a young man who put bloody bodies in his truck, and he showed me his bloody truck, and people. And I also just met strangers in Las Vegas who came together during that moment for each other. And it's a moment when everyone's hurting. Everyone is hurt. Very important to have healthy coping mechanisms. So I think physical fitness is so important. I train 5 times a week, and that is a release for me. 1 hour every day, and that gives so many benefits beyond just the physical aspect. It's for your mental and emotional health. I do meditation as well, and I read books, and I don't even watch that much TV, to be honest, even though I work in television, beyond what I need to know. Obviously, to do my job, I keep myself informed, but I'm not going to keep that thing on all the time.
Yeah.
Healthy also to take breaks from information. And, you know, I heard this a long time ago that we're drowning in information and starving for wisdom. So I listen to podcasts. I prefer that. And it's important to just not be bombarded by everything, social media. Just take a break and be silent, sit with yourself, and that is a great way to keep yourself balanced.
So you had mentioned earlier that your family's from the Philippines. Your dad was a writer for the LA Herald, and you pretty much got into journalism because of your dad, basically. So was it difficult? Like, did you feel like you had this pressure or need to kind of live up to certain standards having to go into this field? Like, I know for me, when I first went to college, I went in as pre-med, and there was just a lot of pressure on me and a lot of expectations of me that I would be the first doctor in the family, and I couldn't let anyone down. So did you ever feel that way, like going into journalism and deciding to pursue it? Well, my dad was a journalist, so I I got some shoes to fill. I have some things to live up to with my dad.
Yeah, it was never him imposing it upon me. Definitely not. Um, it but it just knowing who my dad was and knowing the fact that I had enormous shoes to fill.
Yeah.
um, it it was definitely a driver. I can't be a crappy journalist, you know. I, I have to live up to my father's um, legacy and forge my own. So that was how I thought about it. I'm following in his footsteps, but making a path of my own as well. So he was in newspaper. I'm doing television journalism.
Yeah.
So it's two different animals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But thankfully, I think I have created and built my own path. But yeah, my father is a great influence on me, and I'm glad that to follow in his footsteps. When I was little, I did not want to be a journalist. I wanted to be an archaeologist, actually.
Oh. Oh.
but but to say that I followed in my dad's footsteps means a lot to me. It did mean a lot to me. So.
you are also a member of the Asian American Journalists Association. And I actually found that pretty inspiring about you because that made me think of representation in this industry. How important is representation for you in broadcast television?
Oh, it's vital. I think if we don't do it, we're going to fail. You
Mm,
have to reflect your audience. The diversity in our world needs to reflect that in the newsroom and on television and in the media. We need diverse voices and faces in radio, TV, digital news, print, and it has to, reflect who we're covering. Otherwise, we're not doing our jobs.
yeah,
So, very important to see people of different ethnicities and different
yeah,
backgrounds, because that's how you get closer to the truth, having different perspectives. And if you don't have that, then I don't see any organization becoming successful without diversity.
yeah. I totally agree with that. And I mean, I second all of that. To be honest, I feel like having having some kind of representation of someone of a different background, whether it's a different religion or a different ethnicity, it's really important to have that, because you can see both sides. You have someone who can tell the other side and who can kind of teach the audience of how some things are. Like I think of Don Lemon when he reported on Whitney Houston's funeral and how important that was for him to do that because of how he explained how African Americans celebrate a person's life in a funeral. Like he went through a whole history behind it. And
I provided that context, which
yeah,
only brought because he was African American.
yes,
So
yes,
you need to see diversity as the asset that it is, because it definitely is an asset.
getting a Master of Arts in Homeland Security and Counterterrorism.
Yes.
That's a lot. And I see you on Instagram all the time posting stories of your papers. Like
Yeah.
you're working at the desk when you're not on the camera, when you're on your break and you're just posting, just upload another assignment, almost done, almost there. So
So I think it's so important to show people the hard work that goes into it, and that you can do it. You can achieve it. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to. Yes, it will be hard work and it will suck,
yeah,
but you can get it done as long as you manage your time properly and you stay disciplined and stay driven. Then you can do it.
yeah. So
Believe it's hard.
what made you want to pursue a Master of Arts in that specifically?
Well, from covering all the stories that I cover,
Yeah,
I here in San Diego, from national security to the military to law enforcement, and just seeing how law enforcement behaves in the field or what military issues I cover, it just fascinated me naturally. I'm very fascinated by what I observe around me, and so I wanted to gain a deeper understanding of it that goes beyond just what a reporter would report on. Sometimes we only just get the shallow information available and then we file it off, but I wanted a deeper understanding of the inner workings of national security. And I also, I went through the FBI Citizens Academy program as well, and that also enhanced my interest in the subject matter. So I thought, you know what, I really like this subject, I really want to know more. Why don't I educate myself on it?
yeah,
And so I was like, all right, I'm doing this.
yeah.
I I enrolled in American Military University, and I'm so glad that I did. I'm loving the experience. I'm loving the subject matter, loving the professors I'm meeting, and the other students that I'm meeting as well.
Yeah. You know, that's actually really inspiring that you just wanted to know more. You just wanted to learn. It's not something that was like, oh, I'm bored. I think I'm just gonna go back and decide to get my master's in this. But fact that you really wanted to know more, you really wanted to learn, and that's important.
Yeah, and that could help. That not only does that add credibility to your work as a journalist, but
Yeah.
it also makes you better understand the subject matter and therefore better be able to explain it to viewers, So I wanted to have that credibility and that ability to understand and translate for people. And then also, you know, maybe down the road, even maybe focus on more stories in that subject matter. So, there's so many things you can take, so many opportunities you can take with education. That's why I would always value someone who took that extra step to educate themselves, because it's a lot of hard work, but it shows determination, and it shows someone who wants to be knowledgeable about what they're talking about.
Work at Fox 5 now. You've got your start, um, you know, very early on in reporting. So what would you say is next for you? Like, I know you just started at Fox 5, not too long ago, but where do you see yourself in like 5, 10 years from now? Because Liberty, you've done a lot. You you have done so much, from tragic stories to covering our military to being involved with the Asian American Journalists Association. Like, you do a lot. So where do you see yourself 5 to 10 years from now?
Well, 5 to 10 years from now, I see myself still doing journalism. How that will look in terms of whether I have focused on a certain beat or something, that's still being shaped as we speak. I I still don't know what it will look like, but down the road, I hope to develop more stories that are impactful and meaningful here in this community and across the world, because national security is very important, and it encompasses the whole world, because we don't only just protect our domestic borders, it also goes across to international partners and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I just hope to really complete my degree. I'm a person who's one goal at a time. I don't want to get too much ahead of myself and having too many goals out there, pie in the sky things. I think it's important to be disciplined and say, okay, this is what I want to accomplish. This is my goal for this year. And then down the road, we can tweak it and modify it to see what happens, because that's how you adapt.
Yeah.
You think you're going to get to from point A to point B,
Yeah.
but forget about all the things in between where you can go down here, up there, all sideways.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to just focus on the task at hand. And right now, it's in really enjoying my time here at Fox 5, which I love.
Yeah.
Doing meaningful reporting that's impactful here at Fox 5, and accomplishing my degree, and that will take me some time to complete, because having a full-time job and doing your own schooling online, it's a lot. So I take breaks in between. So I'll take a 2-month course, then a break, and then 2 months course. So I'm taking breaks in between. You're really supposed to complete a master's in like 2 years if you take it continuously.
Yeah.
But I'll complete it in 2.5 or maybe even 3. So I have some time.
Yeah.
And one day at a time.
Yeah. We have come to my favorite part of this whole entire show, which I like to call Raise Your Glass, which is where I'm going to ask a question. And I know you're at work, so it's okay if you don't have like a glass of wine or anything. I know that's just as fine. That is just as fine. But I'm going to ask a question, and it's just going to be related to whether it's womanhood or whether it's just a general question. And what we're going to do is we're going to discuss it. And then at the end, we're I'm gonna make a toast to you for being an extraordinary woman and being inspiring to all women, and especially women of Asian American descent. And I'm also going to make a toast to all extraordinary women. So, ready for the question?
Yes.
Okay. So, can a woman ever be too ambitious? Is what advice do you have for the women out there that are being told, "Oh, you're doing too much. You're too ambitious."
Vashti, don't you think I've been called too ambitious? Or people
That's
think
exactly why I came up with this question. I admire your ambition.
thank you.
I
Thank
do.
so much. Honestly, the reason why I am where I am today is because I am too ambitious. But I would pose another question. If I was a man, would I be too ambitious?
Oh man, that
If I was a man, would I be considered too ambitious, or would I be considered what? What would they consider me as? A success, someone driven,
yeah,
motivated,
hard work.
hardworking.
Yeah,
Good. So I say be too ambitious because here's the thing: women, guys. This is just not stereotyping or making a generality, but think about it this way. I heard someone say on a podcast, guys will brag about if they did something, an amazing thing or a good deed, they would brag about it and inflate it times 10. Women will diminish what they've done times 10.
hmm
So brag about yourself, because be confident, be proud of yourself, because you shouldn't live in a world where you are making yourself less than.
yeah,
Be proud to stand up for yourself, stand up for what you deserve and what you believe in, and just let that be your guiding force.
yeah. I totally agree with you. I mean, I know for me, I've been told before that I'm too ambitious and that I'm doing too much. And I won't lie, sometimes I can do too much, like more than what I can handle and like take on.
Because
And
our super women, we're supposed to be good students, look good,
yeah,
at our jobs, and good with children if you have
yeah,
children, and then good at the marriage, and then so of
yeah,
course you have to do everything. So
yeah. And I know for me, like
I'm
there was,
sure you do too much. I do too.
yeah, like there was one time where I actually had to slow down a little bit, but not cut back too much of my ambition because, I'm like you, I pursued my master's before, and that's probably one of the biggest accomplishments I'm most proud of. Uh,
Congratulations. Yes, that is
Thank you.
great.
And it's mostly because, I come from a background where at a very early age, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. I was told, that it would be hard for me to pursue college. I wouldn't be able to handle college because I was in an IEP program. And
Mhm.
so, sure enough, went to college, got my bachelor's, and then literally less than a year after graduating from college, I'm like, you know what? I want to get my master's. And I got my master's, and I feel like if I wasn't too ambitious, would I be sitting right here talking to you right now?
Yeah,
That's
exactly. You would.
that's the,
Then you'd be like, oh, she'll say no. I probably won't ask. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And it's
yeah,
like, no. Be like, hey, I got this awesome podcast. I'm proud of it. You'd be great on it. Let's
yeah.
do it.
And that's why I created this podcast, because as you said before, like just a few minutes ago, brag about yourself. I want this to be a place where women can come and brag about themselves, be proud of what they're doing, talk about all that they're doing, whether it's simply just giving back to the community, whether you are a doctor, whether you are a nurse. I don't care who you are, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, because being a stay-at-home mom is also a job
It
as
is.
well.
It
So
is.
that's why I
Yeah.
hated this.
It's not to be obviously egotistical or arrogant. No, not that at all. But it's be confident, because too many women out there put themselves down and
Yeah,
themselves and make themselves small, to not offend others around them. But it's like, no, stand tall.
Yeah. And be proud of it. Be proud of what you've done. And I can tell you are very proud of what you have done. And it makes me proud of you. Like, I've only known you for what, a
You.
week and a half now, 2 weeks, and it makes
Well,
me.
yeah, but like every woman, I have my own insecurities, and I don't always feel proud or strong, you know, and that's okay. But and that's why it's even more important that you make sure that you are your best ally and
Yeah,
advocate.
definitely. So, Liberty, I'm going to make a toast to you.
All right.
Being an extraordinary woman. Thank you for being a positive woman and a role model to all women, and of course, women of Asian American descent. And thank you for being an inspiration to me. I mean, like I said, I've been following you since you came to Fox, and I've loved everything about you ever since then. And I'm happy we had this chance to talk. I'm happy I had a chance to get to know you better. I can't wait for other women to hear your story. And let's also make a toast to all the other extraordinary women out there. So, Liberty, thank
Like
you.
you, Vashti.